Here's a readout of the Biome project that I did with my biology students. To start out, each person picked a biome out of the hat. That determined which biome they'd be studying and also the group that they would be working with. After they did that and they found out who they were going to be working with and which biome they'd be researching, each group got an iPad or two, depending on how many were available that day, and they used the iPads to research and create their project. I used the iPads with this project because I thought it would be easier to just easily pass around the iPad, look up something, show it to somebody else, while they were working on creating their poster. Sometimes in the computer lab it gets a little bit crowded with all the computers and all the people in there. You can't really bring in poster board and color and things. So I thought the iPads would be a great tool to use for this project. So what the students had to do, and they each played to their own strengths. Obviously somebody who was better at drawing and coloring created the board. Somebody who was good at writing wrote up the write-up. Maybe somebody who was better at some other things added their talents in some other way. But what they had to do was research 5 known animal species and 5 known vegetation species particular to their biome. Also look up adaptations of the animals to that biome, the climate and landscape of that biome. They had to include herbivores, carnivores, omnivores, and autotrophs. You can see right here, as well as references, and basically just create a poster that looked like they went to that biome and took a picture of what was happening in nature with the animals, with the plants, and things like that. After they did that, they turned that picture into a food web. So the 5 animals and the 5 known vegetation species, they turned into a food web just by drawing arrows and connecting the food webs or food chains together. On another sheet of paper, they listed each of their plants and animals and how they fit into the food web. For example, if they did a temperate deciduous forest, which is the climate that we live in here in West Virginia, we have grass seeds that are eaten by field mice. Field mice are eaten by snakes. Snakes are eaten by owls. So they would draw that, the mice eating the grass, a snake, an arrow from the snake to the mouse showing that it's eating it, and an arrow from an owl to a snake showing that that's eating that. Again, part of the research that they had to do was researching biotic and abiotic factors, as you can see right here. Biotic factors are things that are alive in their ecosystem. Abiotic factors are things that are not alive, such as sunlight, temperature, water, soil, things like that. They needed to discuss them in full sentences and just basically discuss what was going on in that biome. After 4 days of researching and creating, then the students got up in front of the class and did a presentation on their biome. Each student was required to talk, and they were basically teaching their biome to everybody else. They knew this, so that they knew that they had to be the experts on their biome and teach it to everybody else in the classroom. They were also graded on their group work ability. So basically what happened is I monitored the class the whole time they were working, and I noticed, well, maybe little Johnny over there isn't participating right this time. He didn't lose points right away. Maybe I just caught him at a bad time. So what I did was then, a couple minutes later, I looked over again. If the same student still wasn't working, I made a note of that. Again, maybe I caught him on an off couple seconds there, and he was just taking a breather for a second. And so again, maybe a few minutes, 10 minutes later, I would look over again. If the same student still wasn't working a third time, that's whenever they lost points for not participating for the day. To show how this report was graded, I used a rubric to grade. I think rubrics are good for grading these kinds of things so that you're not judging, oh, this one was just really creative, the person was a good drawer, so they get a better score than maybe somebody who wasn't very good at drawing but did have all the facts in there. Okay, so as you can see on here, they had to have 5 animal and 5 plant species. If they did that, they got 10 points. If they showed maybe 4 of each, they got 8, 3 of each, 6, and so on. Was the picture drawn accurate to the biome? Again, that was pretty much you basically got the points or you didn't. Did it look like what it was supposed to look like or not? Were 5 food chains or food webs drawn in the picture? 2 points per food web or food chain that they drew. Were the food chains then written out on another sheet of paper in full sentences? Again, depending on how many they did, that's how many points they got. Were 10 biotic factors researched? 10 points to 0. Were 10 abiotic factors researched? 10 to 0 again. Presentation, they had to talk about each of those things. They got points on that. Did you participate in the presentation? You got 5 points if you participated, 4 points if you maybe said a couple things, so on and so on and so on, down to 0, not participating at all. And then the participation grade for group work. Every day if I checked, if you were doing what you were supposed to do, you got a 20. Maybe 3 out of the 4 days you were doing what you're supposed to, you got a 15. 2 out of the 4, 10. 1 out of the 4, 5. 0 out of the 4, 0. Add all of those up to get the total grade, and then I could add comments. Like, you lost points because you didn't do this, or you got points because you did this. So the students had a good time using the iPads, enjoying the iPads, using them for their intended purpose of research and study, and I think everybody did a very good job on this project, and everybody used the iPads the correct way. I didn't notice anybody goofing off and using them in inappropriate ways, so overall I think it was a very good project.